The phone rang on an ordinary Thursday evening. My husband, Daniel, was reading the newspaper, and I was folding laundry. Just another quiet night in our home. I glanced at the caller ID and saw Emma's name. A smile tugged at my lips. Our daughter rarely called these days, but whenever she did, it always warmed my heart. "Emma." "Hi, sweetheart," I answered, already picturing her glowing face in my mind. But her voice wasn't warm. It wasn't her usual bubbly tone. It was clipped, formal, almost rehearsed. "Mom, I need to tell you something," she said, her words carrying a weight I couldn't quite place. "What is it, darling?" I asked, my chest tightening. There was a pause. Then, with a deep breath, she spoke the words that sliced through me like a blade. "You and Dad. You're not invited to my wedding." For a second I thought I had misheard her. My hands froze mid-fold, the towel slipping from my fingers to the floor. Daniel looked up, puzzled by the sudden stillness in my face. "Emma, what do you mean?" I whispered, my throat dry. "I mean exactly that," she said sharply. "You and Dad are not invited. It's just better this way." I stared at Daniel, my lips trembling, unable to form words. He saw my expression and immediately leaned forward, worry etched across his features. "Emma," I finally managed, my voice cracking, "how could it be better to exclude your own parents from your wedding? The wedding we've been planning with you since the very beginning." She hesitated, then sighed heavily. "Look, Mom, it's nothing personal. It's just that, well, Michael's family feels like you two are too controlling. They think the wedding will be smoother without you." Her tone was detached, as if she were reading lines fed to her. My heart sank deeper with every syllable. "Too controlling." Daniel's voice thundered from beside me. He motioned for the phone, and I handed it to him with shaking hands. "Emma, we've done nothing but support you. We've paid for the venue, the catering, the dress, every last detail. And now you're telling us we're not even welcome." There was silence on the other end. Then a soft, almost dismissive sigh. "I don't want to fight about this. It's my day. Please just respect it." And with that, the line went dead. I sat there, stunned, the weight of her words pressing down on me until it felt hard to breathe. Daniel set the phone down slowly, his face pale, his jaw clenched in anger and hurt. For years, we had dreamed of watching our little girl walk down the aisle, of giving her away with tears of pride in our eyes. And now, with one cold phone call, she had stripped us of that dream. That night, our house didn't feel like a home. It felt like a stranger's place, quiet, heavy, and broken. The night after Emma's call was the longest of my life. Sleep refused to come, as if my body itself knew rest wasn't possible under the weight of what had just happened. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every single word, every cold syllable of her voice. "You and Dad are not invited." It echoed in my head until it no longer sounded real, more like a line from a cruel play. I turned to look at Daniel. He wasn't sleeping either. His broad shoulders were tense, his jaw still clenched, his eyes fixed on the darkness like he was trying to wrestle with it. "Daniel," I whispered, my throat raw, "do you think she really meant it?" He turned his head slowly, and the pain in his eyes was almost unbearable. "She meant it." She hung up without a second thought. That wasn't hesitation, that was a decision. I covered my face with my hands, hot tears spilling through my fingers. "But why?" "Why, yes. We've done everything for her, Daniel. We sacrificed vacations, worked overtime shifts, cut corners on ourselves just so she could have the life she wanted. And this is how she repays us." Daniel sat up, swinging his legs to the side of the bed. He pressed his palms to his knees, trying to contain his fury. "No, this isn't Emma. This is Michael's family. They've been whispering in her ear since the beginning. Remember last month, when his mother made that comment about how the wedding should reflect their side of the family more? I brushed it off, but maybe I shouldn't have. The thought made my stomach twist. His family had always been polite to us, Too polite, in fact, like every word was sugar-coated to mask contempt. Now it made sense. They didn't want us there. And Emma, our daughter, had chosen to bend to their will instead of standing by us. I got out of bed and walked to the kitchen, the house eerily quiet except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. The wedding binder sat on the counter, thick, worn from months of planning. I opened it, flipping through the carefully arranged pages. Venues, floral arrangements, seating charts, all funded, all designed, all loved into existence by us. My chest burned with betrayal. How many hours had I spent coordinating with vendors, staying up late to finalize deposits, ironing out Emma's requests down to the tiniest detail. And now we were disposable. Daniel joined me, resting a hand on my shoulder. His touch was firm, grounding me. We can't let them treat us like this. I looked at him, my eyes swollen but sharp with anger. What do you mean? He pulled the binder closer, flipping to the page with the list of deposits. Do you see this? The venue, the catering, the photography, the dress. Do you remember whose names are on every single contract? My breath caught. I knew exactly what he meant. All of it was under our names. We had paid. We had signed. Daniel, I whispered, realizing the storm brewing in his mind. He clenched his fists. If we're not invited, then neither is this wedding. No dress. No catering. No fairy tale day funded by the parents they tossed aside like garbage. For a moment I hesitated. A part of me still clung to hope that Emma would call back, apologize, say it was all a terrible mistake. But deep down, I knew that hope was a fool's dream. The daughter I had raised wouldn't have spoken to us like that. She wouldn't have sounded so cold, so final. Tears welled in my eyes again, but this time they weren't only tears of grief. They carried fire. I felt something shift inside me, a raw determination rising from the ashes of heartbreak. She chose them over us, I said softly, almost to myself. She chose to humiliate us, to exclude us, after everything we've given. And she thinks we'll just sit quietly in the shadows and let it happen. Daniel's hand tightened over mine. Not a chance. The clock ticked on, each second heavier than the last. Midnight passed. Then 1. Then 2. Neither of us went back to bed. We sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of contracts, receipts, and invoices, lit only by the dim kitchen light. We weren't parents anymore, at least not in that moment. We were wronged partners, betrayed investors, cast aside as if we didn't matter. And as the night stretched into dawn, a quiet vow formed between us without a single word spoken. If Emma truly didn't want us at her wedding, then she wouldn't be having one at all. The morning sun crept through the blinds, but instead of warmth, it only revealed the wreckage of the night before. Coffee cups, wrinkled receipts, and a wedding binder lay scattered across the kitchen table like the aftermath of a storm. I hadn't slept a single hour. My head throbbed, my chest ached, but under it all was something new, resolve. Emma had drawn a line in the sand. Fine. But she had forgotten who had built the sandcastle she stood in. Daniel was already on the phone when I walked back into the kitchen. His voice was low, calm, professional. Yes, this is Daniel Matthews. I need to discuss canceling our booking for the lakeside pavilion. I froze, clutching the doorway. He looked at me, his eyes steady but blazing with unspoken rage. Yes, I understand there's a non-refundable deposit. That's fine. Please proceed with the cancellation. He hung up, exhaling slowly, like a man who had just pulled the first brick out of a wall. That was the venue, he said. It's done. I sank into the chair across from him, my hands trembling. Just like that. His jaw tightened. She didn't hesitate to erase us from her wedding. Why should we hesitate to erase the wedding itself? I nodded, swallowing hard. He was right. This wasn't about spite. It was about reclaiming dignity. I reached for my phone and scrolled through the list of vendors. My fingers hovered over one name. Aurelia's Bridal Boutique. Emma's dress. She had cried when she first tried it on, whispering, "This is the one, Mom." My heart clenched at the memory, but I forced myself to press call. Hello, this is Margaret Matthews. I'd like to cancel the order for the Monique gown. Order number 4729. The woman on the other end sounded surprised. Oh, Mrs. Matthews, are you sure? The final fitting is just a few weeks away. I closed my eyes, picturing Emma in that dressing room, twirling in front of the mirror. A dagger twisted in my chest, but I forced the words out. Yes, I'm sure. Cancel it. When I ended the call, silence hung heavy between Daniel and me. It felt both satisfying and devastating, like cutting away a piece of yourself but knowing it had to be done. By noon, 3 more contracts were gone. The photographer, the caterer, the florist. Each time we spoke the words, cancel our booking, it was like slamming a door in Emma's face. But something inside me shifted with each cancellation. The grief dulled, replaced with a cold sense of control. For the first time since Emma's phone call, I didn't feel like a victim. Felt powerful. Around mid-afternoon, Daniel sat back in his chair, rubbing his temples. You realize what's going to happen when she finds out. I stared at him, my lips curling into a bitter smile. She'll call. She'll scream. Maybe she'll beg. But she made her choice, Daniel. She chose them over us. Now she can deal with the consequences. And I wanted her to call. I wanted her to hear the sound of her perfect wedding crumbling piece by piece. I wanted her to feel the same helplessness we felt when she said we weren't invited. Daniel leaned forward, his voice steady. This isn't about revenge anymore. This is about teaching her that actions have consequences. Yes, I agreed, my voice sharp as glass. And it's time she finally learns that. That evening, as the sky turned a bruised shade of purple, I turned off my phone. I didn't want to see Emma's name light up on the screen. Not yet. Not until enough pieces of her world had fallen apart that she finally understood what she had done. And deep down, beneath the anger and betrayal, a small flicker of hope remained. Maybe, just maybe, she would realize her mistake and come back to us. But until then, Daniel and I would keep pulling the strings. And we had plenty left to cut. The first call came at 8:17 a.m. I was barely awake when my phone buzzed violently on the nightstand. Emma's name lit up the screen, sharp and urgent. I didn't answer. By the second call, then the third, I knew she had discovered something. My stomach twisted, but I forced myself to stay still, sipping my coffee as if the world wasn't cracking open on the other end of that line. At 8:36, Daniel's phone lit up instead. He looked at me across the table, raising an eyebrow. Do we? No, I said firmly, almost too quickly. My hands trembled as I gripped the mug tighter. Not yet. By 9:05 we had racked up 12 missed calls. And then, at last, came the text. Emma, what did you do? The venue says everything is cancelled. Are you insane? I stared at the message, my heart pounding. The fury behind those words, the entitlement, like we were the ones who had betrayed her. Daniel leaned over my shoulder, reading. His jaw clenched. Let her sweat. The calls kept coming. By noon, the tally was 23 missed calls. And then another text, longer this time. Please. We need to talk. The caterer says the deposit is gone, the florist too. Do you realize what this is doing to us? Jacob's parents are furious. Everyone is blaming me. I need you to fix this. Well, fix this. The audacity made my blood boil. After everything she had said to us. You're not invited, not enough space. She still had the gall to demand we fix her disaster. Daniel's laughter was humorless. She sounds just like her mother, he muttered darkly, referring to Jacob's mother, the woman who had whispered poison into Emma's ear until she turned on us. The phone rang again. Call number 24. This time Daniel picked up. Emma. His voice was low, controlled, almost cold. The moment her voice crackled through the speaker, it was frantic, shrill. Dad. Thank God. You have to stop this. The wedding is in shambles. Half the vendors have pulled out. What did you do? Daniel didn't flinch. We did what you told us to do, Emma. You told us we weren't part of your wedding. So we stepped out of it. Completely. There was a pause. Sharp inhale. Then, you can't just. This isn't your wedding, it's mine. You had no right to. I cut in, unable to hold back anymore. My voice shook, but it was steel underneath. No right. Emma, your entire wedding was built with our money. Every deposit, every contract. We signed. We paid. You erased us, and now you want to keep the pieces we gave you. That's not how life works. Her voice cracked into something more desperate. Mom, please. You don't understand. Jacob's family. They're putting so much pressure on me. His mother said. I slammed my hand on the table. Enough about Jacob's mother. Silence. The kind that burned through the line like fire. When Emma spoke again, she was crying. I just wanted things to be simpler, cleaner, no drama. That's why I said what I said. I didn't mean to hurt you like this. The words stung, but they were hollow. Daniel spoke before I could. You didn't want drama, so you cut us out like we were nothing. You didn't just hurt us, Emma. You humiliated us. And now you're learning that actions have consequences. There was a sob, muffled, then anger again. So you're ruining my life. You're destroying my wedding just to punish me. My throat tightened. We're not ruining it, Emma. We're simply taking back what was ours to give. If you and Jacob's family want a wedding without us, then you can build it without us. From scratch. With your own money. Her breath came fast, ragged. Mom, please. Please don't do this. But I ended the call. My hands shook as I set the phone down, tears stinging my eyes. Daniel reached across the table, taking my hand in his. His grip was steady, grounding. She'll learn, Margaret. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But she'll learn. The rest of the day was a blur of silence and vibrating phones. By evening, the total had climbed to 32 missed calls. Each one was a scream we didn't hear, a plea we didn't answer. And for the first time I felt something close to peace. Because for once, Emma wasn't the one pulling the strings. We were. It was just after breakfast when the knock came. Insistent. The kind of knock that promised no good news. Daniel looked up from his paper, his brow furrowing. Who the hell? I didn't need to ask. He knew. A cold weight dropped into my stomach as I walked toward the door. When I opened it, I was met with the very face I had feared and expected. Jacob's mother. Dolores was dressed immaculately as always, her pearl necklace gleaming, her blazer pressed so stiff it could cut glass. She didn't bother with greetings. She stormed inside, heels clacking on the hardwood like a war drum. Margaret. Daniel. We need to talk. Her voice was ice, controlled but carrying the venom of a rattlesnake. Daniel stood, folding his paper slowly. Dolores. His voice was calm, but his eyes hardened. What a surprise. She spun on him, her face tight with rage. A surprise. Oh, don't play coy. You two destroyed my son's wedding. Do you have any idea what chaos you've unleashed? I crossed my arms. Destroyed. No, Dolores. We simply stepped back. We took away what was ours. If Emma and Jacob want to marry without us, then let them. Her lips curled. You think you've made some noble stand. You've embarrassed them. Humiliated me. Do you know how many of our guests have called? The venue cancelled. Caterer gone. Flowers, music. All vanished. People are whispering. They're asking if Jacob's family can't even manage a simple wedding. I let out a bitter laugh. And whose fault is that? Perhaps the family who encouraged Emma to cut us out in the first place. For the first time the mask cracked. Dolores's nostrils flared, her eyes flashing. We were trying to save her from your influence. Always controlling, always hovering. She wanted a wedding without your drama. Daniel stepped forward, his voice low and sharp. She wanted a wedding without her parents. The people who raised her. Paid for her schooling. Bought her first car. Gave her everything she has. And now you dare stand here and demand more from us. Dolores's chin lifted, but her voice dropped to a venomous hiss. You're selfish. You've made this entire thing about yourselves. Do you want your daughter to resent you forever? Because that's what you're ensuring. My hands shook, but I forced my voice steady. She already resents us, Dolores. She made that clear when she told us we weren't welcome. We're simply honoring her wish. There was a silence, heavy as thunder before a storm. Finally, Dolores leaned closer, her perfume choking, her whisper sharp. If this wedding collapses, Margaret, it will be on your heads. Not Emma's. Not Jacob's. Everyone will know it was you who destroyed it. I met her eyes, refusing to blink. Then let them know. Because we will not be erased and then used. Daniel opened the door wide. His arms stiff and commanding. Get out, Dolores. For a moment I thought she would spit at us. But instead she straightened her blazer, gave a sharp sniff, and marched out. The slam of the door echoed through the house like a gunshot. I stood there, trembling, every muscle in my body taut. My chest heaved as the silence swallowed us again. Daniel came to me. His hand warm on my shoulder. She's bluffing. She thrives on control. She thinks we'll break if she pushes hard enough. But the doubt had already crept in. My heart twisted with fear. Had we gone too far? Would Emma ever forgive us? That night another text came. This time not from Emma. From Jacob. Jacob, if you care at all about your daughter's happiness, you'll fix this. Otherwise, don't bother showing up when she cuts you out for good. I sat there staring at the words, my pulse hammering in my ears. The choice was clear. They were cornering us, trying to break us. But they didn't know one thing. We were no longer afraid of losing Emma. Because in a way, we already had. The silence between us and Emma stretched into days. Days where no phone rang, no messages came. Until finally, the whisper started. Not from Emma. Not from Jacob. From the outside world. It began with a call from my sister, Claire. She didn't even say hello. Her voice was hushed, urgent. Margaret, what happened? Everyone's talking. Emma's wedding is falling apart. My stomach clenched. What do you mean? I just heard from one of Jacob's cousins. The hotel backed out. Something about payments being pulled. The florist refused delivery because there was no balance on the account. Guests are saying half the vendors have walked away. I sat frozen, clutching the phone. Daniel's eyes widened as I relayed the words. He muttered under his breath. So it begins. By the end of the week, the trickle became a flood. One by one, guests called or messaged us, not Emma. They wanted answers, explanations. Some were sympathetic. Others were sharp, even accusatory. Why would you cancel everything? One aunt demanded. How could you do that to your own daughter? Another relative accused. Each time I held my ground. She told us we weren't invited. We honored her request. Everything tied to us was cancelled. It was never ours to manage once she made that decision. But the guilt still clawed at me, every word stinging like salt in an open wound. Then came the photos. Screenshots from social media. Jacob's family was scrambling, literally trying to rebuild the wedding from ashes. They begged for discounts, shifted venues, cut corners. What was supposed to be a grand celebration was now a haphazard patchwork. And Emma? My heart broke when I saw her. In one photo, she was standing outside a cafe with her bridesmaids, her face pale, her eyes swollen from crying. The caption read, "When family drama ruins the happiest day of your life, broken heart # pray for Emma." Spread like wildfire. Sympathy poured in for her, but the whispers grew sharper. People wanted to know what the fight was about. And as they speculated, the image of Jacob's perfect family began to crack. Then late one night Emma finally called. Her voice was shaky, defensive, but under it all was exhaustion. "Mom, why did you do this?" My throat tightened. "Why did you do this, Emma? Why did you cut us out?" Silence. Then a soft sob. "I didn't think you'd actually leave. Thought you'd fight harder. That you'd still come, even if you were angry. Jacob said you'd cave. The words hit like a knife. She had gambled with us. Assumed our love would outweigh her betrayal. Daniel leaned closer to the phone. His voice firm but tender. Emma, love is not slavery. Respect goes both ways. You wanted us gone, so we left. You can't erase us and then expect us to be your safety net. Emma cried harder. Now Jacob's furious. His family says this is all your fault. Everyone's blaming you. Do you know what it feels like to walk into a bridal fitting and hear the seamstress whisper about you? Closed my eyes. Do you know what it feels like to have your own daughter say she doesn't want you at her wedding? Her breath hitched. She didn't answer. The silence stretched. For a fleeting moment, I thought she would apologize. But instead, her tone hardened again, fueled by Jacob's influence. Fine. If you want to ruin everything, so be it. But don't come crawling back when I choose them over you. The line went dead. I sat there, trembling, tears burning my eyes. Daniel wrapped his arms around me, but his jaw was tight. His eyes blazing. She's being used, he muttered. Manipulated. And when this wedding finally collapses, Jacob's family will blame her, not us. That's what terrifies me. He was right. Because the cracks were widening faster than anyone could patch them. The photographer pulled out next. Then the band. Rumors swirled that the venue they had scrambled to book had double-booked another event. Guests began canceling. Some outright said they wouldn't attend a wedding that felt cursed. And through it all, Emma's silence grew louder. Until one evening, a message appeared on my phone. Not from Emma. Not from Jacob. From a number I didn't recognize. It was a single sentence. You think you've won. But you've only destroyed her. My hands shook as I read it, a chill running through me. Whoever sent it wanted me to break. But deep inside I felt something shift. This wasn't just about Emma anymore. It was about the truth being buried under manipulation, lies, and pride. And whether Emma hated us or not, I knew one thing. When the final crash came, we would be the only ones standing ready to catch her. The day Emma had dreamed of finally arrived. But it was nothing like the fairy tale she had planned. Daniel and I hadn't planned to go. After all, our daughter had told us not to. But I couldn't stop myself from scrolling through social media, watching in real time as fragments of the wedding leaked online. The morning began with chaos. Guests were stranded outside a half-decorated banquet hall, some standing awkwardly with confused expressions, others snapping photos of the chaos. The replacement florist had delivered half the order. Bouquets mismatched, wilting. The catering truck was late. And the venue staff, overwhelmed, whispering about unpaid balances. It was a disaster. Emma arrived at the venue late, her face pale, her gown slightly wrinkled from being hastily steamed in a hotel bathroom. She tried to smile for the cameras, but even through the shaky live stream someone posted, I could see her eyes darting nervously, searching for us. But we weren't there. Instead, whispers followed her wherever she went. Guests were asking questions. Why weren't her parents attending? Why had everything collapsed? And why, if Jacob's family was so perfect, couldn't they even manage a wedding without everything falling apart? The ceremony began. The officiant's voice cracked over the microphone as Jacob stood at the altar, stiff and visibly frustrated. Emma walked down the aisle, her smile trembling. Daniel and I weren't there to take her arm, to give her away. She walked alone. And that's when the first blow landed. Halfway through the vows, the catering staff stormed in loud, demanding. Payments hadn't cleared. They refused to serve the food. Gasps echoed through the room. The officiant froze. Emma turned pale, her bouquet shaking in her hands. Jacob hissed at her, loud enough for guests to hear. Fix this. Now. But Emma couldn't. She was the bride, not the banker. Jacob's mother rushed forward, trying to calm everyone, insisting it was a miscommunication. But the damage was done. Guests were whispering, phones out, filming everything. And then came the second blow. The band announced they were leaving. Their contract hadn't been honored. No payment, no music. They packed up in front of everyone. Emma broke. Tears streamed down her cheeks, streaking her makeup. Her bridesmaids huddled around her, but Jacob? He didn't comfort her. He glared, muttered under his breath about embarrassment, and how could you let this happen? Right there, in front of everyone, Emma realized the truth. It wasn't her parents who had ruined this. It was Jacob's family, cutting corners, scrambling, blaming her for decisions she didn't even make. And now, with the eyes of every guest burning into her, she saw just how alone she really was. The final blow came when Jacob's uncle, a loud man with no filter, blurted out across the crowd. "Maybe if your parents hadn't pulled out, we wouldn't be in this mess." Gasps rippled. Emma froze. Guests turned toward her, hungry for answers. She stammered, tried to explain, but her voice cracked. They weren't invited. Her own words, flung back into the spotlight, condemned her. The silence was deafening. A family friend stood. "Not invited. Your own parents." Another voice rose. "They built this wedding. They sacrificed for you. And you pushed them out." Emma shook her head, sobbing now. "No, I didn't mean," Jacob said. "I thought." But it was too late. The truth unraveled faster than she could contain it. Guests rose, disgusted, some walking out. Others stayed only to gawk, to whisper, to film. Emma turned to Jacob, begging, "Please, say something. Help me." But Jacob's jaw was tight, his face red with rage. Instead of comforting her, he spat out, "You've humiliated me. You and your pathetic family. This marriage is over before it begins." He ripped off his boutonniere and stormed out of the ceremony. Cameras followed. Emma collapsed. Her bridesmaids caught her before she hit the ground, but the image burned in every guest's memory. The bride abandoned, broken, humiliated on the day that was supposed to be her triumph. And we weren't there to see it live. But within hours, clips flooded every social platform. By evening, Emma herself called us. Her voice was hoarse, small, nothing like the defiant girl who had once declared we weren't invited. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. About everything." Daniel and I sat silently for a moment. My heart ached to rush to her, to hold her, to wipe away the pain. But Daniel's hand on mine reminded me, we couldn't fix this for her. She had to see the truth herself. When I finally spoke, my voice was steady. "Emma, we love you. Always have. But love doesn't survive without respect. If you're ready to rebuild, we'll be here. But this time, it has to start with honesty." On the other end, Emma sobbed. For the first time in months, it wasn't a sound of defiance. It was the sound of a daughter who had finally understood. The wedding was over. The marriage had collapsed before it began. But maybe, just maybe, the family could be saved.